Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Robinson. I'm the Executive Director of RISE. And we've just kicked off, as you know, our Riverine Community Resilience Challenge. This is the first of 4 webinars that we'll be having. This first one will lay out generally what the challenge is, what we're trying to do, the problem we're trying to solve, and the process that the challenge will go through in order to select winners. We direct you to our website where there are detailed applicant guidelines. You should read those, understand those, and by all means ask us questions if anything needs to be clarified. I certainly can't cover everything on a short 25 minute Zoom presentation, but I'll try and give an overview, and then I'll leave some time at the end for questions. But as I mentioned, we will be having more webinars. The other webinars we'll be having over the next few weeks will be more topic specific. This webinar will be talking about the challenge itself. So I'll just keep going, and then we will stop around about 1:20, between 1:20, 1:25 to take questions. The problem that we're addressing, we were approached by the state of Virginia after several significant flooding events that occurred in the southwest part of Virginia in an area called Buchanan County. This is a terrain map of Buchanan County. It's in the very far west of the state. It's mountainous, and in 2021 and 2022 there were some significant flash floods. These flash floods are typically caused by heavy rainfall, and as was the case in these events. What we saw is an event in Hurley, in Buchanan County in August 2021 that destroyed a number of buildings, damaged a number more with the high water and the swift water. The state managed to raise about $12 million for this community, which arrived about 15 months after the fact, to help the residents out. Another event happened a year later, July 12th, 2022. 6 inches of rain fell on Pilgrim's Knob and Whitewood area, again causing devastation, shown in the picture there. These towns were very severely damaged. In the Hurley case, 1 person was killed, but a lot of people were put out of their homes and severely displaced. These are not wealthy communities. The median income in these areas is about $32,000 annually, and the typical building replacement cost is about $50,000, between $30,000 and $50,000. So these are not high value, dollar value communities, but they're communities that need to be helped and protected, and the state came to us to ask how we could help. One thing to note here, and I'm going to show a graphic on top, this is a picture, a screen grab from the weather forecast on TV just prior to the Hurley event. So if you see my cursor here, that's the meteorologist's hand from the weather forecast show. But what you see behind here are regions of predicted heavy rainfall over a 48-hour period. These are highly localized regions falling in a very mountainous terrain. So the effect of these rain showers can be, on the one hand, very, very localized where they land on the topography, but the shape and the valley, the mountain valleys carry the effects quite far from the rainfall, and in ways that are hard to predict, that require some sophisticated modeling to predict what's going to be affected by rainfall here whether Hurley gets affected or not, and it was. So it's quite a different situation than what we've seen with coastal flooding and in other areas, but it's one that really needs some attention. And what I want to show here is this is the region that we are looking at. This is Buchanan County up here, and this is the FEMA map of riverine flooding for the country. Well, basically for the Virginia and West Virginia. But you'll see in the red areas are areas of very high vulnerability to riverine flooding. So even though we're focused on this one region, this one county in here, this is a very common problem. And in this challenge, we will be limiting our focus to Virginia, but in fact, quite a large area. I've superimposed the 4 planning district commissions, PDCs, that we're interested in covering. So 1 through 4 are the ones that are participating here. So we are looking to address the needs of all these 4 PDCs. I have met with them. They are all on board to help out and to provide support and guidance to the teams that are entering the challenge. But even more so, if we look at the national map of riverine flooding, this is not an uncommon problem. This is Virginia here. This is the area that we were just talking about. But you can see all the way up and down the Appalachians here, up the eastern seaboard, there are riverine problems. In fact, Vermont in 2022 or 23 had a very significant event. The very significant event that caused an awful lot of damage, and that is mentioned in the write-up. Actually, it was the 9th to 11th of July 2023, the worst flooding in the state of Vermont since Tropical Storm Irene in 2011, and that occurred up here. That was riverine flooding. So just a little bit of background about RISE. Some of you on the Zoom already know us, but we're a nonprofit organization. We were formed 6 years ago, and we source regions' problems to the communities such as yours to seek solutions to them. And we've been doing this for 6 years. We've run 8 innovation challenges. We've received over 300 submissions from 30 countries all around the world. We have funded 35 pilot programs to demonstrate the solutions. And we have provided over $7 million in catalytic funding to these businesses to support them in their work. It's catalytic funding in that we fully intend that the company getting the funds should success to us looks like the company gets a paying customer and or private investment. And collectively, our teams have gone on to raise over $48 million in private investment. As far as jobs goes, our contracts, we provided it to our winning companies, have created or retained 175 jobs and have trained over 400 people in resilience-related industries. So we've run this model a number of years. Some of you may be familiar with it. And we're bringing it now to this problem in the riverine communities. And what I want to do now is to talk a little bit about what the topic areas are. There are 3 main areas. 2 of them are in the area of risk mitigation, meaning trying to make the current situation better and less dangerous. And the 3rd one is in the risk transfer, which is more in the insurance side of things. Our first topic here is, and there is much more detail in the applicant guidelines on the website. I'll keep saying that, but I just want to make sure that you know where to refer to. The first area is in the building and landscape mitigation and adaptations design. There are 4 main ways to protect a building that FEMA has identified against flooding. Dry flood proofing, where you basically wrap the house in some impermeable material that so that the outside of the house can flood. and the water won't penetrate into the house and damage it. That's typically good for flood levels of about 1 to 3 feet around the house. Wet floodproofing is another way to approach this, where the lower part of the house is opened up to allow water to flow through underneath it. It's not always possible in mountainous environments, but it's still one that's been used in the past in other, particularly coastal situations. Building elevation is obviously an option, and demolition and relocation is sometimes what has to be resorted to, given the level of damage to the buildings. Keeping in mind that buildings are, the replacement costs are typically between $30,000 and $50,000. So the problem is really finding a benefit cost ratio that makes sense to spend on the building that will protect it while not making it overly expensive to install. So we are looking for ways to protect buildings. This may be a way of reducing the cost of insurance of the buildings, but also to help them withstand much lesser events. Obviously, when 5 or 6 inches of rain come down in an hour or two, there's only so much that a building can be built to withstand. They may not withstand that, but protecting a building against a foot or 2 or 3 of flooding may help mitigate the effects of the more frequent lower intensity encounters. What we also have found here is that the folks at Virginia Tech have modeled the early environment during the hazard. They've modeled the flow over the time of the event. Those data sets can be available for folks that are working in this area to get an idea of what was experienced at what location in the valley that was affected, in the town that was affected, and help them in their designs there. So we will be having someone to talk to us in a couple of weeks to talk about that analysis. That data can be made available. So that's our first topic area. It's protecting the buildings in such a way that it protects them against some level of riverine flooding. Second topic area is an early warning system. Now, this is there have been early warning systems for rivers around for quite a number of years, largely focused on the large river plains that you find in Africa or India or parts of Asia. Not so much on riverine, although that's started to get some attention more and more. What we're looking for is an end-to-end system. So on the one hand, we know what causes these flooding events. We know that these are usually pluvial-induced, very high-intensity convective activity. That's something that can be measured, and the National Weather Service has been able to develop products that are quite helpful in understanding just the amount of rain in there. We also have the topography of Southwest Virginia has been modeled to 1 meter resolution by airborne LiDAR. That is available for folks who are working in this area, so you can start to put the event, the rainfall event, on top of the topography. There's also a need to understand, because these are very remote communities, what the message consists of, what you tell. Once you've identified a community, a town that's going to be affected, what do you tell them? What guidance do you give them? What does the message contain, and how do you get it to these communities? They are not always covered by cell, but the information needs to get to the right people at the right time. So the solutions that we're looking for in this topic area is an end-to-end solution, from observation and forecast of what's going to happen in the event, developing a warning, and getting that warning to the people that need it. So it's an end-to-end. There's knitting together meta observations, topography, concept of operations for emergency management systems, and communications. So it's a very interesting area that I think can be put together and solutions can be found for this. The third area is a very large and in-depth topic area. When right after an event, the community needs help, especially an event like Hurley and Whitewood. They need help in finding shelter, finding food, just in the next hours after the event. Then they need help either to fix up their homes or to find somewhere to take their families and to get somewhere and to keep them safe. So there's a number of needs that need to be understood, and we will have someone who was involved in the Hurley and Whitewood recovery events talking to us in an upcoming webinar, but to talk about what the residents need and when they need it. Throwing money at them is not always helpful, especially when the immediate needs are food, shelter, that sort of thing. But at some point, they will need money, and they will need money to live and until they can get back to work or until they can fix up their homes. So we will be focusing on understanding what the residents need and when they need it. And then on the other side of things, we want to look at an insurance program. What sort of insurance program can be built here to meet those needs of the insurance of the residents right after an event, all the way through to complete recovery or rebuild of their property, and how that insurance program can be built that is sustainable and manageable. How you get the money to the residents, how you get them what they need when they need it. That's all part of what we're looking for here. We saw, as I mentioned, the Hurley event, they raised $13 million for that, or $12 million. And for the Whitewood event, $18 million was found from a legislative appropriation, again, the same way. So the state has already put in or found $30 million for 2 properties. That's not sustainable. That's an awful lot of money. The most immediate needs in both Hurley and Whitewood events were met by United Way, that raised $1 million for each one of these towns and helped out. They were the ones that helped out early on. Again, that was a great effort in helping the residents, but that's not a sustainable approach. And we want to provide, to develop solutions that work for Buchanan County, but also work for other riverine threatened communities up and down the coast in the state. So this is the topic area to look for a region-wide insurance and support program. So these are the 3 topic areas in summary. Just to talk about the process that we're going to go through here, the application process, and details again are in the application guidelines. We want your initial submission, provide details of your solution and its potential impact as described in the applicant guidelines. We will then go through down select there and select finalists that will be asked to provide more detail on their solution. We will then pick the finalists that to present to our judging committee. They'll get a chance to pitch either live or via Zoom to the judging committee, and so then they can be selected as appropriate from their pitch session and their additional information. The winners will be chosen based on the merit and how the judges will assess them is described in the applicant guidelines, and they will be put under contract in June. As far as the timeline goes, we launched on March 29th. April 4th, 11th, 18th, 25th, we'll be having informational webinars. I'll talk about those in the next slide. Application submission deadline is May 6th, 2 p.m. This is a very compressed schedule. We'll be announcing finalists very shortly after that on May 10th. May 20th is the deadline to submit the additional documentation and schedule the presentations to the judging committee. And we want the winners to be announced in late June. We need to have the winners announced and under contract by the latter part of June. That's just a requirement on the funding that we have. We have to have the funding under contract by the end of June. So that's why this is a fairly accelerated schedule, but it's doable in our experience. We just need everyone to work together towards this as we move ahead and get everyone working on their projects in July. Awards and benefits that described, we will help you in help the winners in their challenge. We provide them up to 300,000 individual, and if companies come in as teams, they can submit proposals for more than that. This is non-equity funding. We will provide you with real-world infrastructure, access to pilot sites as required, and an accelerator program to help you understand how to grow the business. We can provide office space and fabrication testing. Data sets can be requested. They're outlined in the document too. We have data sets available, and additional data can be requested during the project itself. We'll give you access to the experts and stakeholders. You'll hear from some of them in the webinars, but the winners and as part of their project will have a very close communication with that group. We also give you access to our entrepreneurial community of other companies that we have funded, as well as assistance with permitting as required, and PR and media. So we're definitely not hands off. We'll work with you very closely to make sure that you are successful in your project. Upcoming webinars Thursday, we're going to be talking with Jessica Swinney from Wise County EMS and GIS services. The week after, we'll speak to Debbie Milton, who was very closely involved in Hurley and Whitewood recovery efforts. We'll also talk with Kevin Cockersberger, who headed up the modeling of the Hurley event. And then on Thursday, 25th, we'll be talking to Francis Bouchard and Marsh McClellan, who is an expert in insurance programs and particular flood insurance programs. So we hope that will be beneficial to you all. And so finally, if you click on that QR code, it takes you to our website. All the information's there. We welcome any questions. We want to help, so feel free to reach out to us. If you have a question that you want to come to us outside of the webinars, that's fine. We will post the answer on an FAQ page unless it's something confidential in nature. So we covered a lot here. It's 1:27. I will open it up to any questions. I'm not sure how we tell if anyone has any questions, Paige, but we've got a few minutes here. I'm happy to take questions.
If you type your questions into the Q&A section at the bottom, we should be able to see those. Martin, welcome to ask your question.
Hi, Martin. Martin, can you hear us? Okay, I can't seem to hear Martin. Is there any other questions?
We have a question from Karen Lindquist. What does the funding cover, and the pilot project development, etc.?
So, hi Karen, nice to hear from you again. The the funding, there's a list in the applicant guidelines of what we can fund and what we cannot. But what we want to fund is a pilot that demonstrates the effectiveness of your solution. So it can fund. We're not procuring any hardware or any software. We are funding a pilot program that you will build yourself with our help. It can be staged in terms of certain development stages to get certain things done and installed. But in the end, we want to pay for having a demonstration of a successful solution. That really is the finish line for us and should be for the company too. Does that help you, Karen? Did I answer that? Okay. So someone asks, could funding for the insurance challenge help support premiums of beneficiaries? That's a very good question. I think the funding cannot be used for paying a premium, but what we're looking for here at this stage is not so much the insurance program being implemented and demonstrated, but more being designed. And that's in terms of what the costs are, who the co-beneficiaries are, who pays what, and who gets what under what conditions. So we're not looking for an insurance product that hits the market. We're looking for a program that is designed, that can be manageable, sustainable, that we can then start working more with the necessary state governments or federal governments or whoever needs to be involved there. So that is one case where we don't expect, we're not looking for a marketed solution at that point, but we need the program, the insurance program designed. Steve Brandt asks, how many submissions do you anticipate? That's always a good question. Typically, we get about 25 or 30 in our challenges. And then we neck them down to fund around about five or so finalists. Martin Dolan, what if a holistic solution addresses all three challenges? Then what I would suggest is that you can submit to all three and show how they fit together. I would not discount that they could all be funded, but also I wouldn't promise that either. It may just be fund one over another. But we definitely, this all has to work together. There's no question about it. Yes, and Mark Slaughter's question, for flood warning, I can see a scenario where the end-to-end pilot is limited to a smaller area or single locality due to lack of in-field data collection equipment. As a result, a project output component may primarily be a plan to install equipment. Is this an issue? No, it's not. We know that the area is lacking infrastructure. If we can do a pilot that is designed to get the message to a particular area and demonstrate how it can work end to end, I think that's acceptable, because there will be a requirement. There is a requirement in that whole region there to get better communications. And maybe one of the reasons why there is not good enough communication is because there isn't such a strong need, other than just for telephone, and that's not really such a big economic driver. Cell phone in that area. So doing a limited demonstration would be fine in this case. Q&A. Let's see what else we got. Okay. Is there any other questions? I hope this has been helpful. please, if you have any further questions, contact us. We'll be managing our emails from these webinars. We'll help you in any way we can. These are good questions here. And as we go ahead in the next few weeks, let us know if you need any further clarification. With that, I thank you all for your time, and we hope to see more of you over the next few weeks and into the challenge itself. So thank you all.